We explain what obscurantism is, why it is related to the Middle Ages, and what are its main characteristics. What is obscurantism? Obscurantism is the tendency to hinder knowledge and keep the popular sectors uneducated, which humanism and the Enlightenment attributed to the Catholic Church of the Middle Ages and the modern age. In general, the term is used to characterize the Middle Ages as a dogmatic era, dominated by the Church and subject to religious superstition. The term obscurantism was born in the 16th century and was used from the 18th century onwards by the Enlightenment philosophers, who opposed religious darkness and proposed, instead, that knowledge could only be illuminated by the light of reason. The Enlightenment and the liberals of the 18th and 19th centuries also gave importance to the diffusion of education, against the restriction of knowledge, or strictly religious education, encouraged by the more conservative sectors of the Church. Although some practices and institutions of the Middle Ages represented many aspects of what was called obscurantism, for example, the Inquisition, censorship of ideas or ecclesiastical restriction of knowledge, some historians argue that considering this era as a dark age is tantamount to simplifying a much more complex situation, in which, alongside the oppressive dominance of the Church, philosophical ideas, technical innovations, artistic styles and phenomena such as commerce and urbanism developed. The origin of the term obscurantism. The term obscurantism originated from the title of the 16th century satire Letters of the Obscure Men, in Latin, Epistolae Obscurum Virorum. This satire dealt with the dispute between the German humanist Johannes Reuchlin and some Dominican friars, parodied as dark men who supported the burning of non-Christian books and hindered human knowledge. Subscribe to DeepL Pro to edit this document. Visit www.deepl.com/pro for www.deepl.com/prof more information. In the 18th century, Enlightenment intellectuals used the term dark to describe the conservative and superstitious aspects of religious thought and ecclesiastical structures. For this reason, the term was linked to a particular historical period, the Middle Ages, which was understood as a dark period between classical antiquity and the Renaissance. This conception had an antecedent in authors such as Petrarch, who believed that they were leaving behind the darkness of the Middle Ages. Today, the term religious obscurantism continues to be used in reference to issues related to the Church, theology, the restriction of knowledge and the orthodox tradition of various religions, and another idea of obscurantism has been incorporated, which defines the use of deliberately complex language for the exposition of philosophical ideas. The characterization of the Middle Ages as a time of religious obscurantism, and of the ecclesiastical institutions of the modern age as a continuity of that dark period, was sustained by a series of specific characteristics of medieval society. Medieval religious obscurantism. The dominance of Catholic dogma and the word of the Bible over the use of reason, critical thinking, and science. The restriction of knowledge to a small group of people, mostly clergymen, and the maintenance of the humble sectors in ignorance. In times of relative expansion of education to other social sectors, at the end of the modern age, the monopoly and control of instruction by the Church was denounced. Censorship of publications considered contrary to dogma, which was an attack on any hint of freedom of expression. Theocentrism, which placed God at the center of all things and reduced the individual to a subordinate or marginal place, as opposed to the anthropocentrism proposed by humanism. And the Enlightenment, which emphasized the human being and his capacity to make decisions. The interference of the Catholic Church and its religious precepts in all aspects of people's lives. The diffusion, among the humble sectors, of conservative ideas that legitimized the religious authority of the Church and the political power of the monarchy. The legitimization of the division of society into estates, some privileged and others disadvantaged, considered as dictated by God, and the encouragement of the submission of peasants and other humble sectors. The institution of the Inquisition, which condemned all that it considered heresy through the use of denunciation, torture and public executions. Criticism of the idea of medieval obscurantism. Humanist, enlightened and liberal intellectuals emphasized the negative and dark aspects of the Middle Ages, considered a time of oppression, misery, dogmatism, ignorance, and backwardness, with the aim of opposing this period to the values they themselves defended: enlightenment through reason, science, progress, and freedom. Some of these principles were embodied in episodes such as the French Revolution, or also in other bourgeois revolutions, which had a strong anti-clerical bias. However, some historians now qualify the characterization of the Middle Ages as a time of pure obscurantism. While many of the so-called obscurantist aspects were indeed part of European society at the time, there were also practices, institutions, and ideas that were less attached to the representation of darkness or decadence. Medieval art generally expressed Christian themes and was strictly guarded by the Church. However, it produced works of important aesthetic value and gave shape to three styles that had their own particularities: pre-Romanesque, Romanesque, and Gothic. Medieval literature was limited by the censorship of the Church. Texts on the lives of saints, theological reflections, and Christian poetry were common. However, cantares de gesta, tales of chivalry, and folk romances were also composed. Technical and technological innovations were not rare in the Middle Ages. Some arose from contacts with Arab or Byzantine populations, and others from their own. Experimentation. In general, they had to do with practical purposes, such as improvements in navigation and warfare, or the increase of agricultural production. Although the scientific method was developed during the years of Renaissance humanism, some medieval theologians, such as William of Ockham, laid the foundations of observation and experimentation. For its part, alchemy, which developed thanks to figures such as Roger Bacon, was an antecedent of chemistry. Universities were born during the Middle Ages and were mainly concerned with the study of theology. However, they also taught law, rhetoric, medicine, arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy, among other subjects. In addition, importance was given to the philosophical ideas of Aristotle, although accommodated to Christian doctrine. One of the outstanding intellectuals of this period was Thomas Aquinas. Even so, religious dogma placed limits on knowledge. For this reason, until well into the modern age, those who put forward ideas considered heretical, such as the idea that the earth was not the center of the universe, were censured and persecuted. Cities and commerce experienced an important boost during the Middle Ages, which at the same time influenced the emergence of a new social class, protagonist of social and political transformation processes in the following centuries: the bourgeoisie.